Hi guys, Martin Curry from Belief Media. I'm going to talk to you about the two front buttons on our website. The relevance is that we are looking at including a third button, which is kind of a big deal. If you have an older framework, you might have one button. That's top of fold on the front page of your website. A single button, by the way, means that you have a very, very old framework and your framework needs to be updated. All those front page assets probably also need to be updated at the same time. Now, why do we include two buttons on the front page? Just to give you a backstory. First and foremost, first of all, the reason we used a single button, the reasoning is not worth talking about because we were wrong, but certainly two buttons works better than one. You've probably heard about the story about the Coca-Cola machine and the Pepsi machine next to each other, and why you always see them paired like that. Now, because it becomes then, from a consumer perspective, do I buy a Coke or do I buy a Pepsi? Now, talking to you and just saying that sounds kind of ridiculous because it doesn't feel like either you want a soft drink or you don't, and either you want a Pepsi or a Coke or you don't. When we take a more recent example, that part of their choice architecture, remembering this video is going to come before another video where I talk about choice architecture, but in providing a choice, we're making somebody make a decision, whether consciously or subconsciously. For those of you that have kids, you don't ask your child whether they want a glass of milk. You ask them whether they want hot or cold milk. It's a closed question. We talk about closed and open questions in our marketing guide, I think, in a chapter in communication. So more recently, we had Barbie and Oppenheimer open at the same time, and they were both massive blockbusters. Now, Warner Brothers released Barbie, and Oppenheimer was released by Universal Pictures, I think. Whether they colluded or not is very much an unknown, but those movies were so diametrically opposed in the story and character and just everything. One was fictitious and ridiculously fictitious, and one was based on a real life story and went for 10 hours. So they released those, and both of them were enormous blockbusters. They did extremely well. And there were only two movies at the time that garnished a lot of attention. So the question we had as consumers was, are you going to see Barbie or Oppenheimer? It was either one or the other. So that kind of directed us into making a choice. Now, those two buttons on the front page of your website are effectively Barbie and Oppenheimer. Are you going to make an appointment or are you going to make a phone call? And that's why there are two buttons there. For those of you that are unfamiliar with how these buttons are manufactured, there's a facility in Yabba where you simply assign a task to those buttons or an action to those buttons. So we go through and we either link to a page, link to a modal, link to a phone number that's registered in Yabba, link to a calendar page, link to a PDF modal or a document, link to a download link to a whole bunch of different options. So it's point and click, it's very easy to do. And those buttons are important, and they will change regularly. Sort of part of your agile marketing strategy is being able to introduce changes to those buttons. There is a third button, and you'll see that. I'll show you another screen, the front page of the website now, and you'll see the video button flashing towards the end. Now, we introduced that off the tail end of the Netflix wildcard, right? Which is sure, it's great to have another button on the front page of your site, that launches a video, because we know that you're 50 plus times more likely to be on the front page of Google. If you have a video, you're far more likely to convert, and so on. But this button doesn't actually tell you what video you're going to watch. It just sort of flashes there. Now, in Netflix, certainly within the children's section, there's a little wild card, cinema card with a question mark over it, and the little kids click on it, and it might be a new Barbie movie or a new any of those kids films. Now I'm put on the spot, I can't remember a damn thing that they watch. So we kind of did that because we wanted to see what sort of impact it would have and how many people would actually click on that link. And then from there, whether we'd be able to create a conversion pathway and so on. Mixed results, and we probably need to test it more thoroughly, but certainly the preliminary tests, which we've run over the course of 6 to 12 months, but aren't running on many websites. It's only 2 or 3, so we probably don't have the sample size necessary to make an informed conclusion, but certainly it does help. Now, those 2 buttons, again, the relevance is we're thinking of including a third. Now, this is a big decision for us. We just don't add a button willy-nilly. There has to be a very clear purpose to it. So we're looking at that now. And there will be 2 websites or 3 websites perhaps towards the end of the week, and we're just going to dump those buttons quietly and create a new pathway. We'll let you know before we do it if we select your particular site. And we're selecting those sites that generally return triple-digit leads, organic leads a month, or maybe anything above 5 leads per day. Organically. So we want to be able to assess based on larger amounts of traffic. We don't want to pick one of those sites that might get 5 leads a month. That would not assist us in the same way. Now, there are 4 buttons below those 2 primary buttons, which we call the PP, or the primary pair. Those 4 buttons, and from memory, they're first home buyer, refinance, and upgrading your home or something else. I don't recall specifically. Their primary function is not it. Well, first of all, yes, it's create the funnel pathway, and it injects an interest type into your website, which means we resolve very quickly what they're interested in. First home buyers, they click on that link. We know they're a first home buyer, so we're able to selectively show, if created, we're able to selectively show different types of information and create an appropriate pathway for them and escalate them and show applicable forms and things and drive them closer towards contact. However, the way that they're very often used is when people target specific niches. And it integrates with 2 systems we call Switch and FPS, which is the front page switch. They're 2 different modules, but they perform the same thing. The basic conditional switches on the front page just swaps over different types of content based on a resolved borrowing objective. It might be a single video on a page. It might be a video and form and text on a page. It might be all the assets on the front page of your website, with the exclusion of the lender icons that show they're generally a fixed resource. Whereas the Switch module will swap out the front page for another. It'll say, hey, someone can click on. And by the way, you can see this when we have the police.com.au site running. That's at the moment it's down because we're waiting on ACL issues to be resolved before we put it back up. There'll be a button that says I'm a police officer, I'm a firefighter, I'm in the military, or I'm in the medical profession. And someone clicks on one of those links and it literally swaps over the front page for another. Each time that specific individual comes back to your website, that front page will have changed. So it's an amazing module. It's a really high-performing module, obviously, and it's underutilized by those guys that have access to it because it introduces a marketing complexity that is often best avoided, and certainly if you don't have the large amounts of traffic and conversions coming off your website, you can't afford to invest any more time into it, and B, it's difficult to see the results. So we do have those running on a large number of different sites, and certainly some of the franchise sites. But those 4 buttons often conflict with the 2 buttons above. And that's where we have to get some feedback from some of you guys. So, and by the way, for those of you that don't use our framework, you can eliminate those buttons. You can swap them out with something else. The whole site is built with Elementor drag and drop systems. So if you don't want to use the default features in there, you can just remove them. We just highly recommend you stick to the ABBA framework because it's conditional and escalating. They're 2 features that cost you 20 grand if you went elsewhere. We provide that feature by default. We don't charge for it because nobody uses the damn thing. So, and no one appreciates it, and that's probably our fault because we haven't given you the appropriate understanding and the necessary education. So that's our fault. But nonetheless, we are looking at feedback. So if you can contact us privately, if there's something you want with regard to those buttons and everything else, the text on the front page is going to change, the call to action text and so on will change, the buttons will change, a whole bunch of different things on that front page. due to change hopefully by Friday, if not by next Monday or Tuesday. We're giving ourselves a very small window to test these features, and it's why we're looking for higher performing sites in order to assess their suitability within the framework itself. Guys, for those that haven't already, and if you're using a generic website that isn't designed to convert, again, I say this all the time, most people don't know what a high converting framework is meant to look like. And our site obviously outperforms everything in the market, and it costs a fraction of what you'd pay for a 10 to 12 page website. So when people tell you their website converts, you have to measure it against ours to understand that they're full of shit. So guys, again, for our clients that want something from that top navigation panel, that all-important top navigation panel, remember that's top fold front page entry, so it's what people are exposed to the majority of times when they enter your website. Being mindful, of course, that every page on your website is a potential organic entry point. People can come from anywhere for any reason. They come onto your website, partners, referrals, introducers, clients, funnel traffic, social traffic, whatever. People come to any single page on your website. So every single page on your website is a type of landing page that needs to convert. That's why I put forms and lead magnets and assets and videos and everything on every single page. Guys, every single page. However, the front page is generally higher traffic than others. So there are considerations on the front page that don't necessarily apply in the same way elsewhere. Those two buttons, guys, are ridiculously important. All right. So again, please contact me, and hopefully by adding a third button, we don't screw the pooch for those people that are testing for us. If that's the case, sorry, we'll remove it. It will be conditional, so I'll add the third button. If you want to keep it there, you can keep it there. If not, we'll just click a button and remove it. Martin Curry, guys, Belief Media, 1300 235 433, and that's 1300 Belief, and my direct mobile number is 0400 777 300. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.